deeply precious, painful, and I would say vital about being with people in their suffering.
Yep.
I always think about Jesus and Lazarus. You know, it's like he let the guy die.
Yeah.
He had every bit of power and foresight to save him before he died, but he let him die, and then he let him remain dead for 4 days for a lot of different reasons that we can get into maybe in another podcast. But one of the most important reasons was so that he could suffer with Martha and Mary. He weeps bitterly. He just shows up in their pain and says, I'm not going anywhere.
Yep.
That's so powerful.
It's amazing. Yeah. You know, so one of the questions we ought to be asking each other right now is like, not if you're suffering, but like how you're suffering.
Exactly.
Because the reality is in times of pandemic and just the frailty of human nature, we're all suffering. And not, you know, and I don't buy the whole, you know, all life is suffering, because it's not. But there are these punctuated moments of suffering that we're meant to enter into.
Yeah.
And we talked, you know, off air a minute ago that, you know, the reality is that this is often where your character is determined. Like who you really are comes out of these moments of suffering. And so much of life is figuring out how to suffer well and to suffer with others. And we even have a virtue in our Christian faith that's unique to our Christian faith.
Which we never hear about.
Yeah, compassion, to suffer.
Oh, I thought you were going to say long suffering.
Oh, or long suffering
Is that the same
too.
thing?
Yeah, no, it's not the same thing. Yeah, so compassion, being able to suffer along with somebody else. Long suffering is not to expect, is the virtue of being able to not expect an immediate resolution.
It's like patience, basically.
Yeah, well, long suffering is the ability to endure. So actually, it's connected to courage. And so courage has both audacity and then perseverance. And long suffering is part of suffering well.
In this very moment, we're just reminding the whole world yet again who is the professor and who's the student, who's the people here. Professor Ryan.
I don't know if that's true, but I'll take it. I'll take it today. No, but yeah, this idea that suffering really defines who you are in many ways. And so I would say, you know, if you want to give yourself like a gut check, like a real gut check, you have to ask yourself, are the things that make me mourn and break my heart, and the things that bring me the greatest joy worthy of who I am?
Ooh,
like,
say that again.
Like just stop, full stop, think about that. Are the things that break my heart and the things that fill me with joy worthy of me? Right? Like if my greatest joy is like drinking this coffee, which again, I'm going to go back to, this is not a product placement, just my love for the coffee you serve while I'm here. I might, you know, I'll say this, if I was really honest, I might just be coming here for the conversation and the coffee. But, you know, so being honest about like, you know, the things that really fill your heart with joy, are they really worthy of you? And the things that really break your heart, is it worthy of you? Like, for instance, I mean, I'll give you an example. Have you ever had a friend that has a natural and maybe even appropriate love of animals, but that doesn't also extend to humans, and like the scandal of that? Because you're like, yeah, you should suffer when an animal suffers, but you should suffer more when a human suffers, right? Yeah. If I hit a dog, I'm sad. If I hit a deer, I'm sad. If I hit a person, it's a different level of sad, right? As it should be. And so to really think about this, like, are we willing to suffer? Because what happens is, for a lot of us, is in those moments that should be the deepest moments of suffering, the deepest joy, we actually run away from them, which is crazy to think in this hedonistic world, but we actually run away from both. Yeah. And so there's these great theologians like C.S. Lewis, you know, says, okay, if you're not able to actually suffer well, you're not able to enter into joy well. They're like part of the same experience of the human heart. In fact, his book, and I write about an article on this in Hearth and Field, called "Suffering Well in Time of Pandemic," and I just borrow, you know, C.S. Lewis has these 6 points about suffering.
Problem of pain.
Problem of pain. Yep. And so, you know, the reality is that, you know, we're called to enter in those moments and recognize, you know, a few things. One, that they're pedagogical, right? That these moments of suffering actually teach us and help separate the wheat from the chaff, right? Help separate which is most essential and which is least essential. So they do that. So they're pedagogical. They teach us about who we are. And they teach us also about the sort of what you know, is sort of a big theological word, but it's anagogical sense. That's teach us about who we're supposed to be, right? So suffering also always gives us a view of what are we after this?